clients and agents often ask us questions that we don't know as agents what we can say, what we can't say. So we have to figure that out. They ask us things like, how long will it take to sell? Or what is your client willing to accept? What's their lowest price? What are the tax implications of this purpose for investors? People always want to know these things. Well, there are so many questions that we get asked as agents that are really not in our wheelhouse. They're either lender stuff but they're not in our area of expertise. So how do we handle that? New agents especially struggle with this because they don't know how to answer and how to still stay as the professional in their field. They want to always have that legitimacy that they are the expert in the field. So how do they handle these kind of questions? And not have the fear of saying the wrong thing. So today we are going to discuss this. I'm Danielle Shepard, your host of Being President in Real Estate. And we're going to talk about what can I say in a real estate transaction. And today I have an amazing guest with me today. This is Amanda Albrecht, and she is an agent with Always Here Properties. She has been in the business over a year, so she's not exactly new. She's had many transactions, but we still have these same fears. What can I say in a real estate transaction? So we're going to talk about that. So Amanda, we're so excited that you're here today, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So let's just dive right in. Mm-hmm. Like, what is one of the questions that people ask that you're like, I don't know how to answer that? Like, what kind of things do you get?
A lot of times, well, actually recently I've been asked questions as far as new investors. They are getting into real estate and they want to know, like, what are their first steps? What are they supposed to do? And I want to be able to answer those questions without sounding like I don't know what I'm talking about. Because, of course, obviously I do know some things, but that's not my hat. I don't wear that. And I know that I shouldn't answer those questions. But I'll be honest, they're a friend of mine and I want to be able to, but I know that I still shouldn't answer those questions. So what do you say in a situation like that?
Well, and that's, honestly, that comes up a lot. It comes up a lot that people ask us questions that are related to real estate that they want us to answer because they see us as being the expert in real estate. But we don't know. Like, literally, we don't know. I'm not a tax person. I'm not a lender. So especially when we get those questions that say, what are my tax implications when you're a new investor? Because that's what they want to know. Well, what is my capital gains going to be? And how much am I going to have to pay? And what do I get to write off? That isn't us. And, honestly, when I have those kind of conversations, I'm like you. I want to sound like I know exactly what I'm talking about, but I don't in that respect. So I usually say something like, you know what? That is so not in my wheelhouse, and I am not qualified to say that. I said, and I usually, if it's about taxes, I say I don't even do my own taxes, but I don't want to give you, like if you were my client, I don't want to give you the wrong information.
Right.
So do you have a tax professional? Let's get you in touch with them because they're going to be the best ones. And if you're starting out as an investor, then we want to set those people up with all of the tools to be the best investor that they can. So we'll want to get them in contact with a tax person. We'll want to get them in contact with a investor-friendly lender because, not all lenders are investor-friendly. And, there's portfolio lending and things like that. As a new agent, it's hard for us because we want to be as helpful as possible. We want to help them and we want them to be successful in whatever they're doing. But it's just where's that line at?
Right.
How do I get to that line, still keeping them knowing that I'm the professional, but not crossing it and going into somebody else's field?
Exactly.
Because the last thing you want is for you to say, oh, yeah, you're not going to have to pay capital gains tax, or you're not going to have to, you're not going to need to do a 1031 exchange or whatever. And then they need to.
Right.
You know, we've seen that happen in transactions before where someone wasn't expecting to pay capital gains and they have to. I have a house right now that is under contract. We are waiting for the sale to close. And even for me, he asked me that question, and it wasn't an investment property, it was a second home, but it's not a homestead at home. So he asked me, he said, well, am I going to have to pay taxes on it? Because I'm selling it for $130,000 more than I bought it. And I was like, I don't know. I never say, I don't ever say I don't know, but I told him I don't know because I literally don't know. I don't know how that tax law works. I don't know what his plan is afterwards for the money. So when we had that conversation, I asked him, I said, well, do you have a plan for after? Like, what are you going to do with that money? Are you going to reinvest it? Are you going to buy something else? I said, that's what you need to figure out what your plan is and then go talk to your tax person, your CPA, and say, this is what my plan is. What do I need to do to protect myself?
Right.
So it makes it difficult, you know, especially investors. Investors always want you to be the expert in everything.
Yes.
They want you to know about insurance. They want you to know about
Yes.
liability and then ROI. And I mean, they want you to know everything. And it's just not reality. You know, sometimes we can compare it to look at the world of doctors. Not that I'm comparing myself with doctors. Not doing that, but it's the scenario. Okay, so comparing it to, doctors, like you have family medicine doctors, you have cardiologists, you have neurosurgeons, you have all this. A family doctor is the one you go to first,
Right.
and then they're like, okay, you know what? I really can't handle this. I've got to refer you out.
Right.
That's really what we're doing. We're like the family doctor, not a doctor, but we're like the family doctor to where they're coming to us. We do their whole entire package. We look at everything and then we say, okay, now I need you to go see this neurosurgeon to talk about your tax, So that's how we have to think of the framework of it is we're the general practitioner, but we have specialists that will help our clients.
So how do you think that we as new agents, how do you think that we can get over that fear of feeling like we're put on the spot and with those type of situations? What is your best advice on that? Because it's terrifying. I mean, it's terrifying.
It is terrifying.
You know?
Yeah. And I'll have to say it's not something that you can really get over by anything other than experience.
Yeah.
Or and experience is a big piece of it, but and also having a mentor or having a broker that's very involved, that is going to be key.
Right.
Because those people, your mentors, they should have been in the business a long time if you have a mentor. So if you have a mentor, your mentor should have been in business a long time. They should also be a high producer in the business. If they're not, you may need to get another one. Okay. But you're going to want to bounce these situations off of them. You're going to want to be able to text them, say, this is my situation, or call them and have those conversations to where they can say, okay, this is how I would say it. You are not going to be a parrot. So, like when we have conversations, you're not going to say things the same way I would say it, because your personality is very different than mine. So, we just have to know that if when I'm telling you, okay, this is what I would say, take that and then spin it to make it sound authentic from you because you always want to be the genuine
Exactly.
person.
I agree with that 100%.
So, and I think that's really the only way, having experience in those situations, which we know your first 2, 3, 4 years, every transaction is so different.
Yes.
They have the same components, most of them, but they're so different because you have the personality of the seller, you have the personality of the buyer, you have personalities that come into play and situations that come into play that are not normal, like when you're dealing with an estate or something like that, and when we talk about the different types of transactions, an estate, when you do an estate the first time, holy cow, the things that they're going to ask you.
I know. I've just went through that. Remember? And
Yeah.
that was My goodness, there's a lot. There's
Yeah.
a lot that goes into it, and I learned so much, not only through them but through you. We learned so much
Yeah.
through that transaction.
And through title.
Exactly. Oh,
I
yes.
kept saying, okay, y'all got to talk to title. This is a title thing.
Right.
You know,
And we went through two different ones because the one that fell through and then with the next one, they were both completely different.
Yeah.
So they're just definitely, not the same. But I also have another question for you. How do you deal with when you're dealing with seasoned agents? And those seasoned agents come to you with questions they know that they're not supposed to be asking you, but they do know that you are a new realtor. And so they put you on the spot for things, and you're like a deer in headlights, like, should I answer this? But you still want to sound professional, like you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
But you know that they know they're putting you in a hot seat.
Okay, so
what do you recommend?
let's do an exact, like, give me a scenario. Give me something that's, and then we'll respond to it like that. Because and I'll let you think about it for a second, and I'll kind of talk on the broad topic. So agents, we've talked about this before. When you're a new agent, other agents will try to take advantage of you. Unfortunately, that's a reality. They will try to take advantage of you because their goal is to do the best for their client, and they think doing the best for their client is taking advantage of other people. It's really not. That's not how it works. But they think that gives them the advantage. So when you're a new agent and you're dealing with a seasoned agent and they're coming at you with different things that they wouldn't dare ask another seasoned agent, you have to know, what you can and can't say. And I think this is where the problem is because when you don't have that happen, you don't know what to say and you don't know what you can and can't say. So do you have a scenario for me?
I kind of do, yes.
Okay.
My last sale, I had one agent that kept bombarding me with questions. Basically, are they motivated sellers? Are they willing to go down? Is this even going to be worth my time? Actually, this one is the one that got me. Is this even going to be worth my time to put in an offer?
Oh, I hate
That was it. That was the one that really got me. That I said, you know what? He knows that I'm a newer agent and he's trying to get more out of me. So what do you think on that?
Well, I'm going to speak first to that.
I was a
The
little
last
shocked at
thing
that
you
question.
said, is this going to be even worth my time?
Yes, that's what just blew my mind.
That just irritated the crap out of me. Okay. Because who do you work for? When you're an agent, who do you work for? You work for your client. So if your client says to you as an agent, hey, I want to put an offer in on this, don't be calling another agent saying, it's going to be worth my time. Because yes, it is worth your time because your client told you to write the offer.
And that was my exact thought. I was like,
Yeah.
isn't this about your client? When did this become about you?
It doesn't become about you. It does not. And that's the other thing that irritates me about agents who want to send me a verbal offer.
Yes, I've had that too.
Yes. Verbal offers, not okay. So I'm gonna clear you up. If you're in Texas, verbal offers have no legality. So if you're saying, hey, I'm gonna send you a text message with my client's offer, okay. Don't get upset when the other agent says, write me a contract, because verbal offers have no legality. There is no standing. You cannot do anything with a verbal offer.
I have come across this several times already. In just a year, I've come across this several times already.
Yeah, because they're not wanting to waste their time.
Exactly. But those were the exact words.
Yeah, that irritates the crap out of me. Okay. So, and now I got off on a tangent and I forgot the rest of the story. I forgot the rest. Okay. So, I mean, get on with the rest of it.
Girl, I don't remember. I was on the same page.
But, okay, now I remember. It's seasoned agents who ask you questions to try to find out what you know and what you're willing to give. Okay. So, for new agents, and I'm going to talk to you, talking to her, but she's behind me, but I'm talking to you. So, for new agents, you have to remember 1000% that your first duty is to your client. Okay. We all want to be helpful. I get that. We want to help the other, we want to be a helpful agent in a transaction because we want the transaction to go smoothly. But our first duty is to our client. Here in the last 3 years, we saw a lot of agents when we were in multiple offer scenarios. We saw those seasoned agents calling and saying, "Hey, what's it going to take? What's it going to take for my client to win this offer? What's the bottom? What's the lowest your client's going to go? What's the highest multiple offer that you got?" We saw all this the last few years, and it wasn't just a last few years problem. It's been an entire real estate issue that people will try to, I don't want to say, um, they're, they just want to utilize the tools that they know. And the tools that they know is I'm going to ask them what is the lowest that their clients want to go. And, if they're a new agent, maybe they'll tell me. And they're going to hope for that. Or they're going to tell you, hey, what does it take to win this multiple offers? And we talked about that last week or a couple weeks ago about, hey, you're my friend. Right? It was in my agent etiquette class. Anyway, talking about being your friend and wanting to do the deal with you. So they'll ask you that question, what's it going to take for us to do a deal together? And as agents, we can't answer that. Okay, you cannot answer it. If your seller does not give you express written on and the listing amendment, written permission to disclose those things, like what's the lowest their go, or even about having multiple offers. If they don't give you written permission to disclose that, you can't disclose it. So when you're asked that from a seasoned agent, one of the best things, I think a lot of things you can deflect with humor and be like, say that, and just kind of deflect things. And they'll back off, but so it's not always like when they ask you those kind of, they're not, I mean, it's not really intimidating questions, but when they ask you those kind of questions, it's especially from other agents, just deflect, just like skirt around it because your first thing is to your client, and you always remember that because I know you always remember
Yes.
that because you fight for clients more than anybody I've seen. But I think when you deflect what they're trying to do, then they back away from it. I even had this thing last night, and I'm an experienced agent, but I had it with another broker. She and I had a conversation, and she's wanting us to put in an offer on her property, and she's like, "What's it gonna take for me to get you to send me an offer?" And I started thinking about that, and I was like, you know, hmm, so what's it gonna take for my clients to make an offer? Well, that just kind of leaves it open. And it leads everybody to believe that, hey, whatever I tell you, you're going to get me done. So we can't really do that.
Right.
And once again, even with her, I just kind of laughed at it and I was like, girl, I don't know what it's going to take. I'll have to talk to my clients, So it's not ever something that it's really, I think humor is the best when you're getting somebody's coming at you like that. I think humor is the best thing to deflect that. And then you can always revisit it later, if it comes up. So, like going back to part of that part, what was the first part of that question? The first part of it. I'm gonna see allergy season in
I
Texas.
know. Yes. Nose.
Got you. I know I'm on camera. Okay, I know, but I'm like it's allergy
bad
season
here.
in Texas. So my Europe people and my Asia people are going, why are they rubbing their nose? I'm like, I'm so sorry.
Yes.
Okay, so going back to that, what you were talking about your scenario that they give me one specific thing that they asked you.
Well, the biggest one was it going to be worth their time? I mean, was it worth their time to put in the offer? And for me, at that, I mean, honestly, it ruffled my feathers a little bit because I always protect my clients first and foremost.
Yeah.
So at that moment, I wouldn't say lost respect, but I just had to take a little bit of a step back because I was like, okay, if this isn't worth your, I mean, this is about your client. It's not about you. You've now made it about you.
Yeah.
And that's where I kind of just took a step back because I didn't really know what to say at that point without saying, you just made this about you. Because
Yeah.
honestly, that's my personality. I'm very blunt with the things that I say, and honestly, it's all meant from a good place. It's just
Right.
that's how I verbalize things. It's very, very blunt, and
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. I tell you, and it's not, I don't think it's really being blunt, it's being honest.
right.
Being honest in a tactful way is
But it
the
doesn't
way.
always work out so well in your favor. I mean, I gotta say, it doesn't always work out well in my favor.
Doesn't, but but you have to be you.
It
You
comes from
you
a good
can't.
place.
It does come from a good place, and you can't ever change who you are, because the moment you start changing who you are and how you speak to people and how you talk to people, then you don't become a genuine person.
So how do we get over the fear? Like as new agents, I know with experience, like
Yeah,
you said, as experience, how do we let it stop? How do we make it stop eating us and bothering us, especially people that care so much?
yeah,
Because it literally will eat at me. Did I say the right thing? Did I do the right thing? Because I really genuinely care about them.
yeah.
I mean, it always, and the weather, and it doesn't matter. It can be your client that takes offense to something that you
Hmm.
said, that they asked you. They
Yeah,
asked you a question. You answered them very honestly, and it wasn't the answer that they
they
wanted to
wanted. Yeah,
hear. And
yeah,
so you're like, okay, I just overstepped a bound that you didn't even mean to overstep because they asked you the question.
yeah.
Like, how do you stop letting those things eat at you? Because we can't, there's a lot of things we're going to lose sleep over at
Oh
night.
yeah, yeah.
And I just don't feel like those are things that we should be losing sleep over because
So,
we're doing our best.
how to overcome that fear?
Yeah. Or at least not let it bother you
Yeah,
so much. You
manage
may
that
not
fear.
overcome of it, but not
How to
let it
manage it.
eat you to the point where you can't sleep at night.
So, this is going to sound like the most ridiculous answer ever, but until you become confident in
Hmm.
yourself as an agent,
Hmm.
that fear is going to be there. Until you understand, until you feel in your core, this is my purpose, this is my calling, I have a servant's heart, this is what I'm here for. And and you feel it, and in your core, you're doing everything for the right reasons.
Hmm.
As long as you have that confidence in yourself, and it's got to be in yourself, then until you have that, you're not gonna overcome anybody else. Um, and it's hard for new agents to have that confidence of self,
So just
because,
experience.
and it is, but it's also, I mean, experience is part of it, but
Because I'll tell you,
it's
I have
knowing
30
yourself,
years of customer
right?
experience, and
But it's
and I'll
a
tell you,
totally
oh
different
yeah,
field.
that's my point.
Yeah, totally different field. No.
It doesn't matter.
So it really goes down to, you as an agent have to fully believe that no matter what is said, no matter what anybody's feelings are, you and you have to fully commit it to yourself that I'm doing this for the right reason. I'm telling you this for the right reason. I'm telling you this to protect you. I'm telling you this to help you. You have to commit that to yourself. It has to be an internal thing.
Do you think it's that we care about what they think versus
Yes,
what, I mean,
absolutely.
I think that, yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's absolutely. And that's in every aspect of our life. Anybody who says, "Oh, I don't care what they think," you're lying. You're lying, because
Oh, I do.
everybody cares.
Yeah, I
I'm
do.
lying.
Oh, I
Everybody
definitely
does.
care.
Everybody cares about what you think. And in real estate, you care about what your clients think because you want them to respect you. You want them to know that you have done a good job for them. And so when they come back and they're not happy with something, then you think it's you, and it's
Yeah.
not. It's
It's
not
true.
you.
You just nailed it. That is
Yeah.
so true. That's what happens.
Yeah. And it's not you. It's
You
really,
take it personal.
you do take it personally. And I have had to say this in this business, and I hate saying this in this business, but it is not personal. it is business. We give a personal aspect to our clients. We want our clients to be happy. We want them to be served. We want them to have the best experience possible.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, it is a business. And our business is to protect our clients. That's our business. Yes, does it weigh on our hearts when things don't go well? Yes.
So we protect them even though it may be something they don't want to hear.
Absolutely.
That's hard to overcome.
It is very hard to overcome. And you can put it to, think about it in your kids. Okay. So you've got a son and stuff. Have you ever had to tell him something that he didn't want to hear?
Every day.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah.
So
okay.
that's the same thing. We know at some point in our life, our kids are going to hate us. Yes. We know that they hate us. But I still have to tell them things that they don't want to hear.
Right. Exactly.
Our clients are the same way. They're going to be upset. I can't tell you that I have a 100% satisfaction rating. I don't. Even though I've been doing this a long time, I've got a gazillion 5-star reviews. I don't always meet the needs of my client because I don't tell. So, perfect example. I just had a client this last week. I met with them. The service I got that client through, they send them out a survey and it says, please review this person. I'm thinking I did a fabulous job. Okay. But he's like, there's 3 different criteria: communication, reliability, and something else. Anyway, got a 4.9. I was like, 4.9? How do I get a 4.9? But the piece that I got the knock down on was communication. And I'm like, I think I'm a great communicator. But I didn't meet his needs. I didn't know what his expectations were for communication. I asked him what his expectation was for communication, like if he wanted email or if he wanted texting or, what was the best way to communicate. And I didn't meet that. And yes, I beat myself up because I'm literally wanting to call him, hi.
Can you fix that review?
Like, you expected of me that I didn't provide. So we have that.
Yeah, I let that eat at me too. Am I providing everything that they're, am I doing my best for them?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do that. Yeah. So what ended up happening? So,
well, I haven't gone. I did send him a thank you card. So
I did the 4.9.
Out still to 5 stars, but the number was 4.9, and I'm like, oh, yeah. But don't be like me. Don't get upset over 0.1. But
I would do the same.
Easy to do. So, and I think reflecting back on, our fears of what we say and everything is you do have to internalize that and know that you are doing the best job possible for your clients. That's what you have to know. And you have to know that at every turn, and you have to never doubt it. When you start to doubt it, that's going to be where it starts coming in. Yes, they're going to be mad at you. Every time I have to do a repair amendment, I'm like, this thinks that their house is the Mac Daddy mansion and is perfect. And then I have to go to them and say, hey, we got the inspection report back and your whole entire sprinkler system is busted. Or the last one was, you have to have a new roof. Or everybody's having a new roof right now.
Or how about the fact that you told them some things that need to be fixed and they could have had them fixed beforehand, but now they want to fix them. And now they have to hire someone to fix them. Had they just done it, especially because you have all the DIYs.
DIY.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, they get upset because, we didn't do that. But it's your fault still. It's your fault.
And we'll have to talk about that in another.
Sorry,
that on another podcast because about repairs, because that's a big topic right there. Let me write that down. Emotionally charged repairs.
But so what you're basically saying is as long as you know in your heart of hearts that you're doing the best that you can and you have done your fiduciary duty to your clients, that you need to sleep well at night.
Yes, and y'all need to sleep. Okay.
Yes, because it can be hard.
Yeah. But
when you genuinely care, it can be hard, but
yeah, because you want it all to work out the best for all parties.
hmm
And because that's what we are, even though we represent the seller or we represent one side of it, we still want it to be a smooth transaction. We
hmm
still want both sides to be happy. And,
absolutely.
for the seller to be, yes, I got a great deal. And then the buyer to be, yes, I got a great deal and a beautiful home. Um, so, but there's one other question that, like, when you and I were having a conversation, there was one other topic that you kind of brought up, um, and now I'm trying to think. I just had it in my mind before we started talking about that. Oh, the legal issues.
Uh-huh.
Like, what can I say to not be sued?
Oh, it's constant worry. Constant, constant. I say something, I'm like, is it going to come back and get me? Yes. I constantly worried about that.
So here's the thing, and this is what I tell every agent, and every broker should be telling their agent this. We have E&O insurance, errors and omissions. We have errors and omissions insurance. Your brokerage should have at least $1 million policy. You have that for a reason, because in every transaction we are going to say things wrong. We are going to forget things. We're human beings. Okay. But we can't let the fear of being sued keep us from being our honest and genuine selves. And I think that's the key thing.
Yeah.
It's hard to be like, can I say that? Can I say that?
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
that's a hard thing. And in your mind, it's throwing you for a loop, but it'll throw your clients for a loop as well.
Well, it throws you off.
It does.
Because how you can't work to the best of your ability if you're constantly questioning
Yeah.
yourself. We're gonna make mistakes.
Yeah. So so that's one of the biggest pieces is um just like I always fall back on. I have E&O insurance. I tell my agents, if we have E&O insurance, it's $1 million. If we made a mistake and we can't fix it, then we can go there. Now, do I want you to do that? I don't want to be sued. I don't ever think court is not
Or
fun.
it's not
Okay.
fun.
But I think it gives a lot of people peace of mind. And, when we've had tough transactions or when we've had things that go on, it kind of, at least I have that in the back of my mind that, well, I got that if it happens. But let's go a little bit further, up from that. So without relying on E&O insurance, but if you don't have E&O insurance, you better make sure you have it. Because I know some brokerages don't provide it. So if they don't provide it, you better get it. Anyway, um, how do you get past that fear of knowing, um, hey, I could get sued,
Hmm.
or knowing what I can and can't say in a situation? Um,
I think that truly every realtor's first fears.
well, yeah, because y'all
One
in
of them, but
school, when you're in school, when you're taking these classes, they tell you every time you turn around, oh, if you do this, you're going to get sued.
yep, every 5 seconds.
You're going to get a check violation. Oh,
Yep.
you're going to get, both. I'm like,
It's drilled into your mind to the point that when you get out, it's all you can think about is say the wrong thing and get sued.
right. And it's that fear factor. And so that's a tough thing to overcome, especially when you've been in classes for 6 weeks and they've drilled into you, oh, you say the wrong thing and you're going to get sued. So how do you overcome that? How do you figure out that what you say can be said? That's the question. How do we know that what we say is what should be said? So I think part of it still goes back to knowing yourself. But the other big part of that is knowing contracts, knowing the rules of engagement, knowing that if you represent a seller, you do not disclose anything unless the seller gives you written permission to do so.
Mhm.
Knowing that if you represent the buyer, same thing. You can't negotiate on behalf of the buyer without the buyer's consent. You can't, you are just a facilitator of the transaction. So you have to rely on this is what their wishes are. So if you come back and, like, let's say, I know there's an exact situation that this is happening, but like when we talk about sellers, when they come to you and say, uh, well, do y'all have a foundation issue? Do you have,
Yes, that's
you know,
happened. Yes, that's happened
yeah.
to me. Yes.
So, people will ask you, well, do y'all have a foundation issue? Do you know of any foundation issues? Do you
Yes.
know? And if literally the seller has not disclosed that in the seller's disclosure, then our answer has to be, well, I didn't see it in the seller's disclosure, but let me ask the seller.
So when they ask you questions like that, the best thing to do is just refer them back to the seller's disclosure notice.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's good. Okay.
Yeah. You always just refer back to the seller's disclosure or whatever notice that is there, because that is, especially on the seller's disclosure notice, that's the seller's representation of their property. So we don't know that property as well as the seller does. Even if the seller is an investor, they're still supposed to know that property better than us. So we have to defer back to that, because that is their written representation of their property. So it's always, and I just had this question the other day, and it was something simple. It's a transaction coordinator. Y'all know how I feel about those. Transaction coordinator emailing me, asking me, what are the utilities on the property? I wrote her back. Please look at the seller's disclosure and know that in the contract, the buyer is required to make sure that the utilities meet their needs. So I didn't disclose, I didn't tell them what the utilities are because it's in the seller's disclosure. If it's not in the seller's disclosure, then buyers are responsible to making sure that the utilities meet their needs. They did not write me back, so I'm not sure if they like that response or not. But
Okay, because I had something similar to that come up recently with the property my present listing, where some clients had looked at it and asked, is there high speed internet? I mean, that was what,
okay, that's a big topic.
and that's what because a lot of people work from home.
Yeah.
But the agent called me and asked me. So let me ask you, at that point, if the agent calls me and asks me that, is it up to me to find that out?
No.
Or is it up to the agent? It's up to them, correct? Because yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
thought.
So
And that's what I said, but that goes back to one of those times where I'm supposed to answer that question. Are you supposed to answer that? I mean,
So it goes back to, I hate to always preach on, you've got to know your contracts. You've got to know what your contracts say. But
well, it was in the contract. It just didn't say. I mean, is there high speed internet? I used to live out there. Guess what? They had that service, but boy, they didn't offer us high speed internet.
right. So, but even when another agent calls you and asks you questions about the property, you still have to refer them back to the written stuff from the
Right.
seller. If they didn't put in the seller's disclosure, because there's a deal on the seller's disclosure about internet, and we're talking about Texas disclosures. I
Yes.
don't know if every state's different, but um, there is that line in there for internet, and then, but it's still not our duty to find out what that is. It's not our duty to find out if that internet speed is high enough for them. High speed internet, there's all kind of different speeds. So it's not our responsibility. Because the minute we say, oh, yes, there's high speed internet and it's fiber and it's 256 kilobyte,
then it puts us we're responsible
for whatever it is, then yeah. Then when it's not, and then the new people buy it, and of course, they only bought this house because it had high speed internet. Because they always say that. But when it doesn't meet their expectations, then they're going to come back to you and say, well, you said. So it's always better to just put that back on the buyer's agent. And then as a buyer's agent, you can facilitate that. And what I mean by that, like, let's use this high speed internet situation. In high speed internet, I can facilitate as a buyer's agent. I can say, okay, this is who the providers are for internet out there, wherever it is. These are the providers. Here are their numbers. Call them
That's what
and make sure that whatever internet they offer will meet your needs, because I don't know that. I don't know what their needs are.
Right.
I don't know what they need. So I can facilitate that. And that's where I keep using that word facilitate, because that's our job. We are facilitators of a transaction. We are those people who work through everything to make sure the transaction goes through. However, we cannot, I want to say the word
State
purport, but yeah,
state something is or is not.
that something is or is not when we don't know.
Right.
I mean, that's a big gray area. So, it's one of those things where I love that everything has to be in writing, because if it's not in writing, like everything, like the contracts, the seller's disclosures, communications, if it's not in writing, it really doesn't exist. And so we can't prove it. So
we've seen that before.
We've seen that before.
Yes.
We've seen lots of things before.
Get it in writing.
Everything's got to be in writing. So I think, and we're just going to kind of wrap up here because we end up being long. This is a long one today. I think just, kind of wrapping up is to focus back on fears of what do we say and what we not say. Couple of things. The only way you're ever going to overcome that is by staying true to yourself, knowing the contracts, knowing that piece, and then having someone that you can talk to and bounce things off of how do I say this? Okay. That's going to be important, whether it's a broker, a BIC, or if it's a mentor.
I was going to say, and I think it really is important, and that's the thing that I love about you, is actually being able to know that you can go to someone and it's okay to ask those questions, because that's a really big fear. Is it okay that I ask these? Am I going to sound dumb? No, they're not dumb. They're not dumb questions. You got to ask those questions. You have to feel comfortable. But believe it or not, a lot of new agents, we don't feel comfortable because we feel like we're going to be looked down on because we're asking these. But we honestly shouldn't. And then I've learned this. I mean, I've learned this, since working with you, and it's been a wonderful experience. But knowing that you can actually ask someone those questions, and it's important. They are important to ask. And no question is a dumb question. No question's dumb.
No.
They're all important.
And that's really a good point. That, I mean, not about me. I always like being, but it is important to have someone that you can ask questions of, because I have seen new agents that have gone to other brokerages that interviewed with me, but maybe it wasn't the right fit, but they'll still call me and want to ask me questions. And I appreciate the fact that they felt that comfortable with me. But you have to have someone that you can ask those questions of
and feel comfortable
and not feel like, hey, I hate to bother you, or hey, I know this is a dumb question. Don't ever say that, because there is no dumb question. But you've got to have someone that you can bounce these things off of, or else guess what's going to happen to your fear? It's going to get even bigger, because then you're going to not know, and you're not going to have somebody to bounce these ideas off of, and you're not going to know what you need to say.
That's true. When you don't ask the questions, your fears just grow.
Yeah. Yeah. So, recapping today, we're going to wrap this up. It's been a long one. This is my longest one yet. But I have loved having Amanda Albrecht with me today.
Love being here.
She is the rock star realtor. But I really appreciate her being with me today and sharing that there are fears in real estate, and there's fears about what we can and we can't say. Any questions or anything, always shoot me a line, shoot me a comment. We can always talk, but always remember, be kind and be present. Like and follow for more. I'm on all the podcast channels, and have a great week from Amanda and me. Take care, guys.